Well, good morning. This is Raf on Technic Antica from a very different place because I am bedridden. I had an injury yesterday, dislocated my knee, and I can't walk. And I cannot really sit down or anything like that. So I thought I would make kind of a historical video on Caruso, and it's gonna be a voiceover, but I hope it's okay for you. The problem with young singers or singers in general, with a few exceptions, is that you guys are thugs. See, don't get me wrong. You need to know the history. You need to know where you need to know where this comes from. You need to know the big names, but you need to know also the people that contributed to those big names. So if we are talking about Enrico Caruso, we need to know who Vergine was, who Lombardi was, who Antonio Cotogni was, etc, etc. And that's what we're going to do today. If you just want the magic pill and there is no delayed gratification, at the end of the day, yeah, you might be a great singer, but you're gonna be a thug. So, the life of a singer maybe lasts for 40 years, maybe. No? What are you gonna do next? Maybe become a singing teacher? And are you gonna be, what kind of a singing teacher are you gonna be? Are you gonna be a thug? Or are you're going to be somebody intellectual? Well, my take is be somebody intellectual, because that will make you a better teacher. And I'm not saying I'm a good teacher, but at least I know my history and I want to share it with you. So, from my bed, bedridden and in pain, behold the story of how Caruso came to be what we know as Caruso. The people behind Caruso, not in the spotlight. See you later. Okay, so let's go. Enrico Caruso's teacher was Guglielmo Vergine. Now, who was Guglielmo Vergine? Born in 1851, died in 1918. Well, Guglielmo Vergine was an Italian tenor and vocal coach, though his career as a singer never really reached great prominence. He was known for his work as a teacher, and particularly for mentoring one of the greatest operatic tenors of all time, you know who, Enrico Caruso. So, born in Naples, Vergine initially had aspirations of becoming a professional tenor, but eventually shifted his focus to teaching. This is something that happens to quite a few singers, that they find different paths. I always say, the greatest singers are hardly ever the best teachers. It's a different ballgame. But anyway, I'll get to that later. So, he ran a vocal studio where he trained aspiring singers in the bel canto tradition. In 1891, a young Enrico Caruso, who had been singing locally in Naples, became Vergine's pupil at the age of 16. That's quite young, isn't it? But I suppose, the voice had broken, and although Vergine was initially skeptical of Caruso's vocal potential, seeing more promise in lighter tenor voices, and these will be linked to the next video I'll do about 19th century tenors, he agreed to teach him for a fee. Now, under Vergine's guidance, Caruso developed his technique, focusing on breath control, vocal support, the tradition of bel canto, which, can be a bit discussed further, but basically he gave him the foundations. However, the relationship eventually became strained. I don't know if some of you guys know about this. So after Caruso gained fame, Vergine reportedly felt that Caruso had not credited him enough for his success, leading to tension between the two. Now, there is another version that states that Caruso didn't have enough money to pay Vergine, and they made sort of a kind of a pact in which, okay, no teaching fees, but when you become famous, you'll have to pay me. And apparently that was a lot. And it's a bit like, the Elvis and the Colonel, right? Anyway, despite the difference between them, Vergine played a crucial role in shaping Caruso's early development, helping him to lay the foundation for what would become one of the most legendary tenor voices in opera history. Okay, some of you might say no, okay, but hey, what can I say? Caruso is Caruso. Caruso was Caruso. Now let's dig a bit into Vergine's life. So Guglielmo Vergine was born, as I said before, in 1851 in Naples. And unfortunately, not much is known about his early life, nor have I been able to retrieve a picture. We don't know much about his initial musical education. However, he was trained as a tenor, and his career's aspirations were focused on becoming a professional opera singer. It's speculated that Vergine's own experiences and training were rooted in the bel canto tradition. Why is that? Because in the 19th century and early 20th century, what was available was Lamperti, Garcia, and there you go. So Vergine likely studied in the rich operatic environment of Naples, which was one of Italy's premier centers of opera and vocal training during the 19th century. We have to keep in mind that Dupré, for example, studied under, if I'm not mistaken, Donizetti. Yeah, Donizetti. And then Nourri tried to study, he studied under Donizetti, but he could not achieve what Dupré had achieved in that William Tell with that, Contrut, first was an A. Remember, it was 435 at the time, and then a high C, which Rossini qualified as a castrated goose. The sound he made. Anyway, so Naples had a tradition of producing many notable singers, composers, and vocal coaches. However, the names of Vergines are not well documented, unfortunately, and there is no direct evidence of who might have trained him in his formative years. As I stated before, despite his aspirations, Vergine's career as a professional opera singer never achieved significant success. And while he may have had the technical foundation, he did not attain the level of recognition that many of his contemporaries enjoyed. Mind you, when Caruso sang Nemorino in Naples, they booed him. So this could have been due to a variety of factors: vocal limitations, the competitive nature of the operatic world, or personal circumstances. So faced with these challenges, Vergine eventually shifts his focus from performing to teaching, where he would make his mark as a vocal pedagogue. Now, Vergine became a vocal teacher in Naples, where he established a studio for training aspiring singers, while his own career as a performer, sorry, may have not flourished, his reputation as a teacher grew, and Vergine focused on developing young singers in the bel canto tradition and style, which was still a prominent technique in Italy at the time, even as opera styles began shifting towards more dramatic forms in the late 9th century, beginning of the 20th century. Obviously, bel canto, I'll make another video about it. Bel canto, meaning beautiful singing, was the foundation of the operatic technique, focusing on smooth legato phrasing. You just have to take a look at some Bellini scores, and then obviously vocal runs, thrills, embellishments. You just have to take a look at Rossini, and then obviously Donizetti. The style also required a singer to maintain clarity and ease in both the higher and lower registers of the voice. Now, this is something I will develop in a later video when talking about the original 19th century tenors: Rubini, David, Dupré, Nourri. Okay, so let's go into teaching Enrico Caruso. In 1891, a young, relatively unknown Enrico Caruso sought out Guglielmo Vergine for voice lessons. Caruso was only 16, as I said before, and the voice had not yet fully developed. He was not fully developed, and his early performances had been met with mixed reactions. He had even been advised by others to pursue a different career. You can see this in, the great Caruso with Mario Lanza. Very inspiring. But despite this, Caruso and his family were determined to invest in his vocal training. Initially, Vergine was very skeptical of Caruso's potential. Maybe he was projecting actually his own experience. He had reservations about the young singer's voice, reportedly considered it to be too raw or unrefined compared to the lighter, more agile voices that were favored in bel canto. Now, this is a very important and crucial point, because that's what later on, I don't want to get ahead of myself, this is what Lombardi's contribution makes the change. So Caruso already must have had a darker, sort of more baritonal in a way voice than the tenors of his times. I wish I had more time and play some recordings of De Luca, etc. to so you can compare what kind of what are we talking about. Caruso was no light tenor whatsoever, and it was later on that the voice soared. So we have here already something that didn't agree with Vergine, but was inherent to Caruso's voice. Vergine agreed to take Caruso on as a student, but only on the condition that he would be paid for lessons. This, again, the controversy. According to some, Caruso's family agreed paying 20 lire for each lesson, a significant amount at the time. This is a bit dodgy, okay? Vergine focused on developing Caruso's voice using the bel canto technique, which, breath control, etc., etc., etc. And Vergine would have worked closely with Caruso to help him master, all this diaphragmatic breathing, and etc. But honestly, I think Caruso had already an inherent animal inside him, and it would later be unleashed. Okay. So let's go a bit, to the fact that under Vergine's instructions, Caruso's voice grew in both strength and flexibility, while Vergine likely insisted, on some important technical foundations. The future tenor would later refine his technique through his own experience and other teachers. This is very important. Now, later relationship with Caruso. As Caruso's voice matured and his career began to take off, the relationship between teacher and student became strained. Vergine reportedly felt underappreciated by Caruso. Uh, Obviously, Caruso began to distance himself from Vergine, and some sources suggest Vergine resented Caruso's success, feeling that he was not adequately credited for his early guidance. Despite these tensions, Vergine's training was undeniably instrumental in helping Caruso develop the technical foundation that would make him one of the greatest tenors in operatic history. Now, other students and teaching legacy of Vergine. Well, Guglielmo Vergine is primarily known for his association with Caruso. He likely taught many other students throughout his career, although no one reached the same level of fame. His impact as a teacher is more clearly seen in Caruso's technique, which blended the best of bel canto's control, perhaps, I don't like the word control, management, and smooth phrasing with the more dramatic demands of early 20th century opera. Vergine passed away in 1918, outliving Caruso's rise to stardom and witnessing the tenor's immense success. Though Caruso's relationship with him had frayed, Vergine's role as a key early figure in shaping the voice of one of the greatest singers of all time cannot be overlooked. Now, let's move on into basically other influences, because Guglielmo Vergine was not the only teacher who worked with Caruso. Yeah, well, Vergine played an important role in Caruso's early vocal development. Caruso worked with several other teachers throughout his career to refine his technique and adapt to the growing demands of the operatic stage. So we're talking about the rise of verismo and the need for a bigger, more dramatic voice. So we're going to talk particularly about Vincenzo Lombardi, and eventually we'll talk about Cotogni. So Caruso's technique, as he matured into one of the most celebrated tenors of all time, needed something else. As we say, Vergine treated him as a light tenor, and he was no light tenor. So let's talk about Vincenzo Lombardi, born in 1836 and passed away in 1919. So after parting ways with Vergine, Caruso studied with Vincenzo Lombardi, a respected vocal coach based in Florence. Lombardi played a crucial role in helping Caruso develop his distinctive, rich timbre and expand his repertoire into more dramatic roles. Lombardi was particularly helpful in shaping Caruso's high notes, which became one of his most celebrated vocal features. So that squillo that later on, all the Melocchi singers had. And not only Melocchi singers, come on, I mean, Fleta, Cortis, Gigli. So under Lombardi's guidance, Caruso's voice gained greater warmth, power, and emotional expression, allowing him to tackle heavier, more demanding operatic roles. The second major influence is Antonio Cotogni, born in 1831, died in 1918. Cotogni was both a baritone and a vocal teacher. Cotogni was a famous baritone and one of the greatest singers of the 19th century, and also had an influence on Caruso's vocal development. Here I must say that actually when I believe it was either a rehearsal or a performance, I think it was a rehearsal, general rehearsal, that Verdi attended. Don Carlo and Cotogni was singing Posa, and he brought Verdi to tears. Another thing I want to clarify is that Volpi, although he claimed that, never studied with Cotogni. He studied with Rossati. Interesting. Talk about this later or maybe in another video. It's getting long. So he was a major, development with Cotogni. Although his relationship with Cotogni was not as strong as with Lombardi or Vergine, but Cotogni's legacy as a vocal pedagogue, particularly in the bel canto tradition, likely contributed to Caruso's evolving understanding of vocal technique, breath support, dramatic interpretation. So talking about Cotogni, his teaching career at the Accademia Nazionale di Santa Cecilia in Rome shaped the voices of many prominent singers who carried his techniques and stylistic approach into the next generation. Here I have a list of some of his most notable students, along with brief biographies. I haven't been able to retrieve pictures of many of them, but maybe the names for those who like history will be, will sound familiar. Mattia Battistini, 1856-1928, often called the king of baritones. Battistini was an acclaimed Italian baritone celebrated for his impeccable technique and vocal elegance. His career spanned over 50 years, performing extensively in Europe and Russia. He was known for his refined bel canto style, direct result of his training with Cotogni. The second, Giuseppe De Luca, 1876-1950. There are beautiful recordings of this baritone, an Italian baritone who became one of the principal artists at the Metropolitan Opera in New York for nearly 30 years. De Luca was known for his versatility, expressiveness, and ability to sing a wide range of roles, from lyrical to dramatic, and his technique and style were strongly influenced by his studies under Cotogni. Another one, Raffaele Pantaleoni, another baritone, Italian opera houses. Then Jean de Resque, 1850-1925, Polish tenor, who became his career as a baritone and later transitioned to tenor under Cotogni's guidance. He was celebrated for his extraordinary range and vocal beauty. And finally, let's talk about Beniamino Gigli. As you know, Beniamino Gigli, 1890-1957. They say that, again, there is another controversy here, because some people said that, like Volpi, Gigli studied initially with Cotogni, but then moved on to Rossati. And Rossati might be a bit familiar because of Mario Lanza. So we don't know. Then we have Riccardo Stracciari, Eugenia Burzio, Maggie Titt. Funny surname, isn't it? Giovanni Zenatello, very, very nice. 1876-1949. Italian tenor, famous for his powerful and bright voice, particularly in verismo roles. I really urge you to listen to his renditions of, for example, Pinkerton in Butterfly. Amazing. Zenatello, an amazing singer. Okay, now let's go a bit back and talk about Vincenzo Lombardi. Italian vocal coach, played a significant role in the shaping of careers of many operatic singers in the late 19th century and early 20th century, but most notably Enrico Caruso. Born in Florence in 1836, Lombardi was originally a singer himself before transitioning into a career as a vocal teacher. His expertise in vocal pedagogy, along with his deep understanding of bel canto, make him one of the most respected teachers of his time. Though details about Lombardi's early life and education are scarce, it's clearly that he was well versed again on Lamperti, Garcia, and what came before. By the time he began working with Caruso, Lombardi was already an experienced teacher with a deep knowledge of vocal mechanisms of operatic performance. Sorry. Now, what was the relationship with, Caruso? Well, after Caruso left Vergine, basically Caruso was aware that there was something that was odd, inherent to him. And Caruso began working with Lombardi in the mid 1890s, just as his voice was maturing and gaining this richness that would define his signature sound. Lombardi helped Caruso transition from a lighter bel canto roles into more dramatic tenor repertoire. Mind you, when he came back, he was at the Metropolitan, went back to Naples and sang Nemorino. People just, they didn't understand his voice. That's it. So the teacher and student reportedly had a close relationship, and Lombardi is often credited with helping Caruso achieve the brilliant high notes and robust tone that made him an international sensation. Singers that Lombardi trained, in addition to Enrico Caruso, Lombardi worked with other notable singers, though his legacy is most closely associated with Caruso. Some of his other students: Giulio Crimi, 1889-1939, Italian tenor, important dramatic tenor of the early 20th century, powerful performances of Otello, Canto, and like Caruso, Crimi benefited from Lombardi's emphasis on vocal strength and expression. Amadeo Bassi, 1872-1949, another tenor, prominent Italian tenor, sang all over the place, Europe, South America, excelling in both verismo and more traditional Italian repertoire. So there you have it. Caruso studied under Vergine, but then he moved into Lombardi, and with some touches of Cotogni, and that's what produced the voice we understand today as Caruso's voice. That in Italian we say maschile bronzea, see this bronze kind of voice. Up till then, tenors sang in a different way. But this is for another video. So now you have it. It's not about Caruso, who had an inherent incredible voice, but it's also about the people that contributed to help him, giving him the tools to develop that unique voice, that unique voice that remains until today for many of us, one of the greatest tenors that ever lived. If you think that Carreras, Pavarotti, and Domingo have been the greatest tenors that ever lived, you are in the wrong channel. Thank you very much. I know it's a weird video without seeing me doing a voiceover, but that's what we got. If you like the content, like and subscribe. If you don't, please do not watch it by any means, otherwise you will be bedridden like me. And if you need help, you know where I am. And remember, it's not only about singing or how to sing, it's about the world of singing. Please, don't be a thug, don't be a meathead. Study. As Musashi used to say, the man that studies is allergic to mediocrity. Bye for now. Have a nice day.